They exist. The reason why they were drawn that way in the animated sort of like, I think it's the animated television show, it's because you have to be able to tell them apart, from the main characters. Hi, Liza.
Hi there. It's really a pleasure to talk to you, Barry. You mentioned that you watched 150 times of Lion King. Why was the original piece so resonate to you personal feelings?
I watched it that many times because I was using it. I was babysitting, and so you just put on a movie to get them sort of like pay attention and calm down. But The Lion King is so great that I realized I began watching it with them. And you realize that as children, they're experiencing these very complex emotions for the very first time. When Simba walks up to Mufasa after he's been killed by Scar in the 1994 film, it's a really intense thing. Children watch it, and for the first time, they're processing what it might be like to lose a parent.
Scar!
You want a hug? You want to come sit with Daddy? Come here, baby. Come sit with Daddy.
And then they're laughing, 3 minutes later. And I just thought it was a very powerful magic trick.
Yeah, so that's why it's 150 times. I was like, why did you watch that so many times? Because you're babysitting. And
sometimes many times in the same day.
Wow. And you never get bored of it.
You never get bored of it, exactly.
And this is a great opportunity that the audience got to see the Mufasa's origin story. And how did you approach expanding such an iconic character?
Yeah, the writer, Jeff Nathanson, he wrote the screenplay, which I read and decided to make the film. And then we worked together. And for me, it was all about the characters. When you make a prequel, there's a version where you're trying to do everything so it adds up to all these plot points that people know. But for us, it was much more about the characters. How did they evolve? What experiences did they go through to shape them and reshape them to lead up to them becoming, this very iconic king, and then this very, unfortunately, evil and dark and jealous brother.
Right. And I always find it fascinating is that the animals in the movie are incredibly lifelike, but yet still expressive and relatable. How did you balance that? I mean, between realism and the performance, and especially when you need to ensure the character felt both authentic and human-like without crossing caricature.
Exactly. These movies are made for human consumption and not for lion consumption. And so, the human beings have to be able to read the expressions, the body language. And so to us, there was this balance between, as you said, the realism. The one thing that always had to be real is the way the characters move in a certain degree. But then we wanted to make sure that if Taka, was feeling unsure or sad, or hopeful, if Mufasa was feeling doubtful, or that he was yearning for something, that the audience could tell that without him having to say.
I always wanted a brother. I still remember my mother, one season after another.
I'm yearning for something. And that comes down to facial expressions, the way we move in relation to one another, these very interesting nonverbal cues that we're used to seeing. If a human being's eyebrows raise or their jaw gets tight, you kind of know what that means. We don't have that same language, with the faces of lions. And so we set about building it. And then as you go throughout making the film, the audience gets more and more adjusted to really understanding what these lions are expressing and what they're feeling.
Was there a specific reference, such as a real wildlife behavior, that was your artistic inspiration? Mainly
it was, Yeah, it was two things actually. The animation company MPC, they did the
Mhm.
2019 film and they did this film. So they have this large library, of lion sort of movement, expressions, all these different things that we're always referencing versus what we're doing, with our animation tools. I got a dog for the first time, right at the beginning of making this film. And look, a dog is not a lion, but it was really wonderful to learn how to read, his emotion just based on, because he can't talk, based on how his jaw sets, whether his mouth is open or closed, the feeling in his eyes, it was
Mhm.
proof that those things could be really great communication tools.
So why did you make the antagonism the white lion this time?
In Disney, in The Lion King, there's so many different like movies and books, and these
Right.
lions, the outsiders, they're actually present in one of, not in the main film of The Lion King, but in one of the Lion King offshoots. So they exist. The reason why they were drawn that way in the animated sort of like, I think it's the animated television show, it's because you have to be able to tell them apart, from the main characters. And so doing that with color, was a really interesting thing. We found that in real life, these lions, they have this genetic mutation, and so they're born with albinism. They're like these albino lions. And we thought it was really interesting because people are superstitious of these lions. And there's even been some movies, some feature films that have been made about them. One of them starred John Connie, who plays the adult Rafiki in our
Right.
film. And he said that typically, because of superstition, people try to hunt these albino lions because they're meant to bring bad luck.
Oh, it's a meaning of bad luck.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought they're beautiful.
in certain places, on the continent. And we thought, wouldn't it be interesting if that was turned, again, working from these outsiders, as they are named, in the sort of the Lion King lore, the Lion King legacy, what if, as opposed to, just like with Taka and Mufasa, they have
Right.
essentially the same parents, but one gets good parenting and one gets bad parenting. And so that sets them on different paths. What if these outsiders, what if they chose a different path? And that was how the whole thing came to be.
They're coming!
Why am I running?
For so long, these characters have been frozen in good and evil. And I think
Yeah.
seeing how, there's nature versus nurture, seeing how just the path of life they were on, sort of like created this situation where one became good and one became evil. And also to experience just the magic of the Lion King all over again.
You stole my destiny. Mufasa, it is your time.
别忘了订阅我们的频道，打开小铃铛就不会错过任何精彩内容，随时上架。我们下回再见。